Yeah. Welcome, friends and family.
Welcome. You're kind of yelling at us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, today I want to chat about, I was thinking back to the time when I took a year off of social media and what I learned in that experience and really how it was life-changing in a lot of ways. And I'm thinking about this now because it's been a little while since I've done this. I'm like,
A year's a long time.
I'm kind of like, maybe I want to do that again.
Yeah.
Something really is, especially as we're moving into election season.
Oh, geez, Louise. I don't know if I could do a full year. I mean, I could if I had to, obviously.
You could,
but
yeah.
I definitely take off like days,
you
weeks.
seem to take off weeks and occasionally a month and just like walk away
I
after
like
you get so annoyed. That's what it normally seems to be for you. You kind of like snap. You're like, that's it, I'm done.
See, so impulsive.
I'm so angry at
The decision
Facebook.
is impulsive for me, which really makes sense for both of our personalities. That you're like, nope, I'm going to do this challenge for 1 year. I'm going to see how it goes. And I'm like, I hate everything. I'm shutting it off. Throwing my phone in the lake.
And then you come back.
And then I come back.
Yeah. So
anyway,
if you're watching this live with us, I mean, I guess you're kind of on social media. I don't know if YouTube is technically social media. Some people say it is.
I would think so.
For me, it's not. That's a different issue. It doesn't feel social to me. It feels like entertaining.
Some of it is.
I don't know. Whereas Instagram, Twitter, Facebook all feel very much like these are legit social media sites. But anyway, so let's just discuss some of this. If you are watching live with us,
welcome.
Thanks
for being here.
Thanks for coming to hang out.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about this is...
Yeah, and have you ever done this?
Or have you taken a social
chunk?
media fast?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you kind of what's going on there. But yeah, this was one of those things that was really, really helpful. So the first time, or when I did this year-long thing, it was actually during our year-long sabbatical where I stepped away from work for a year, which we've done a podcast or two about that. So you can go listen in if you want more detail on that. I don't want to go down all that now, but point is, during that, I realized, all right, I can take a year off of work and I'm going to have to fill that time with something. It's going to be really easy for me to just fill that with social media, which I did not want to do. And so I'm like, well, might as well just take off that for a year too. And I'm really glad I did. And so my hope with this podcast episode really is to maybe give you some inspiration, maybe not to take a whole year. Like that's a big ask. But to consider taking breaks from it from time to time, especially if it affects you the way that maybe it affects both of us.
You said affect both of us?
Thank you for correcting me.
It just is funny.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I should say how it's affected me. I
think there's lots of studies shown about how it affects people.
But I do think it affects different people different ways.
Sure.
And part of that is based on who you follow.
Well, yeah, and how you use it.
Yeah.
You said, YouTube isn't social for you, but I bet for some people it is.
Yeah, it might be. But I think there are some people who follow, like you could go on Instagram and only follow Bible verse things and things like where people are sharing the word, and your experience is going to be very, very different than if it's all of your old high school friends or whatever, and people who are going on vacations all the time, and you're feeling jealous and
home
whatever,
improvement, decorating,
things that are creating discontent in your life. And so you can have very different experiences on social because of that. But I think, Anyway, so in my case, I've just found over and over and over again that every time I log on to, let's say, Instagram or Facebook, it doesn't really matter, either one of them, I don't spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes on there and feel like, man, I feel so much better. Like, I don't think I've ever in my life had that experience where I do that and I leave later and I'm like,
thought.
I feel better. Like I feel more connected to God. I feel more inspired. I feel more like any of that. It almost every single time is way worse than that, the complete opposite of that. And that was just one of those things for me, just as a, self-observation, whatever. I just realized this is good for me to know, good information for me to have. Mm-hmm. Do you have that? Yeah,
I don't know that I've ever been like, man, that was That was a great use of my time.
But yeah,
I think you're right, but I always go back to it, which is surprising.
Okay, so it reminds me of...
How does that work?
I eat better now than I used to, but when I was, say, in high school, like Pepsis, I would drink like 5 to 7 Pepsis, can of Pepsis.
Didn't you tell me you didn't drink water?
Oh yeah, I went years without drinking water. Which now I'm like, what in the
How do you
heck
even
was
survive?
I thinking? And I was like an athlete. Like, it just made absolutely no sense. Anyway, so that was kind of the thing. And then the other thing I would do is I would eat huge bags of Doritos and just like gobble them down until they were gone. And the thing about Doritos, and you could say this about a lot of things, like a bag of M&Ms or whatever, but it's like once you start, it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
It just like pulls you in and your
really
belly
does.
doesn't feel full. And it's like all the MSG or whatever's on those Doritos, man, it's like you just can't put them down. Oreo cookies are another one.
Yes.
I could not eat 2 or 5 or even 10 Oreo cookies. Like I had to eat half the bag. Like, and I just went until my belly was just like, dude, give me a break. Give me a break.
And then afterwards, you're like, oh, why did I do that?
That's the thing. That's my point.
Why?
It's so enticing, attractive, pulls you in. And then, and again, this is my experience. Maybe you're like the complete opposite. And maybe the only thing you do to go on social is to watch the SeedTime Money podcast. And you're like, social is awesome because I leave smarter and wiser and I feel so much great.
That's right.
But
Hopefully.
my experience has been different.
Right.
So
hopefully we're making people smarter and wiser.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Like if we're going to add anything to social, I don't want it to be a bag of Doritos. I want it to be like the opposite. Like we're a fresh, clean, organic salad with like a homemade vinaigrette, or something like that. I'd rather it be that where you feel like, oh, I feel good after eating this. Or some wild Alaskan salmon right off the boat,
Ooh. Can we have that for dinner tonight?
I don't know, maybe.
Salmon sandwich sounds great.
It does sound good. Okay. All right. We're getting distracted here. But, all right. So let's kind of dive in.
You brought it up. This is your fault.
It is my fault. But,
now
okay. So one of the first things that I learned in this season, in that year, when I took this year off of social, is I felt more present. I felt more present with my kids, with you, with friends. And that felt really good. Because I didn't realize how not present I was until I was more present. Because it's like you don't notice it,
Mm-hmm, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, have you had this experience?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and I was on Marco Polo for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my friends a lot in St. Louis. But I was living in Nashville. And I noticed after I got off Marco Polo how quickly I developed friendships in Nashville.
Yep.
Like part of the reason I was holding on to it was because I was like, my friends are there and I don't have as many friendships here. And I was desiring that, but I didn't know how to get it. And I noticed as soon as I kind of like shut that down, all of a sudden I started developing a lot more better and deeper friendships here.
Yeah, you needed to close that door in order to have the other one open.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which was fascinating to me. I was like, that was something, one of those things that I was like, that's not the problem.
Yeah.
But for me, it was.
Yeah, so that was one part of, and that'll tie into the second point we'll make in just a minute. But another part of this, in terms of being present, it was with all of this, but it was also with God, because again, like there's something about our society right now where none of us like to be bored, and we're so. And I kind of think boredom is healthy. Like, I think it's just what God designed for us not to always be our heads spinning. And I don't mean boredom like, what's that Bible verse about?
Idle hands are the devil's.
Yeah, whatever. I don't think that's the verse.
Workshop.
You get the point. And so I don't mean boredom in that way, but just in terms of having some space for your brain to think and not constantly being inundated. I feel like that's natural and healthy, and we live in a world where that just never happens unless it's intentional.
Right.
So as kids growing up, I think we had a little bit of boredom that we still experienced because we didn't have the internet yet, whatever. But now I think it's just you have to work at not being busy and not having your mind constantly filled. And so anyway, so that was one of those things where I would get on my phone and now, or pick my phone up, and now social media is not an option. So it's like, all right, well, what do I do? Well, I guess I could open the Bible app. And so anyway, so instead of, leading first with Instagram, it's like now I'm leading with the Bible app, or I'm like, well, there's nothing else to do on my phone. So I don't know, maybe I'll talk to God, or maybe I'll stand in line at Starbucks. Maybe I'll talk to my neighbor and start a conversation. And so it just, it went back to the way things were. It brought me back to the way things were 15, 20 years ago before this crazy social media world.
Yeah.
I found that really healthy.
I think it is healthy too. I mean, yeah. It's one of those things that I think everybody has this, like, I'd really like to do this, but it's so hard to do it. It's hard to make that decision and draw the line in the sand, you know?
Well, and I think that's why this year-long thing was so beneficial for me, because the all or nothing thing works so much better. It's not easy to say, I'm going to cut back on social media or I'm going to cut back on eating sugar. Like, it's just hard to do. It's a whole lot easier, actually, to just say, I'm not going to do any of it at all for X amount of time.
Right.
And so anytime I've done any sort of fasting, like, or with foods like that, that's worked so much better for me.
Just,
cut
it out.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Anyway, that's the argument, I think, for a social media fast of any, sort. But the other thing I noticed here was enhanced and improved social interactions. Okay. So,
and that's kind of what I was just talking about.
Yeah. And so what that also meant for me, kind of like I was talking about the Starbucks line or friends, because I would have thought that if I step away from social media for a year, I did think this, and I was nervous about this, that all my other friends, their lives are just going to continue and they're all going to connect and get to know each other better and all this stuff, and I'm just going to be left out and blah, blah, blah. Like, that was the thing I was scared of, and that just wasn't the case at all. And it was kind of the opposite, because I sought out more one-on-one time, more interpersonal connection with people. And so it actually developed and deepened my relationships. And again, I'm not sitting here saying that you can't do that over social media. Like, we have established relationships over social and enhance them over it. So you can definitely do that. But I'm saying for me specifically over this period, that was something I was terrified of. And the opposite happened to be what happened. Yeah. And so that was really good. Have you noticed that on any of the Marco Polo thing?
The Marco Polo one. And it has made me a lot more intentional. Because, when you have something else that's filling that void, even though it's actually not really filling the void, well, what I should say is it's not bringing the satisfaction that you're looking for. It's not bringing the bonding that you're looking for. And so, but you have this thing that's filling the void, right? So it makes you think that it's, giving you that, but it's actually not. Yeah. And so I have actually been really intentional with trying to connect with different people. Yeah. Like, and this is just me, like, honestly, trying to find friendships in a new city, was that as soon as I kind of shut that one door of, like, I'm not going to spend, and I still had relationships with these people, that I was talking to, but it was like, I can't put all my focus and all my attention on these friendships when I need someone in town who I can hang out with,
real physical, face-to-face contact.
And I was missing that so bad. I wanted to go get coffee with a friend, but all my friends were in St. Louis, and so I wasn't having that. But now I'm, like, very intentional of, like, okay, that person is someone that I would like to spend more time with. I'm going to text them and find out when they're available, and I'll make myself available. So I definitely agree with that.
How do you feel like this has affected our relationship with our kids? Like, that season, do you remember?
Well, that season was interesting because we had a newborn.
We did, and which I'm really glad I got to.
You need a drink there, buddy?
I do. Buddy.
And I think, whenever you have a baby, it's easy to just sit and scroll when you're just holding the baby. But I think there's also studies for this too that show about the intentionality of looking at your child when they're in your arms, or even while they're sleeping. Like, you just giving them your attention and love is, there's a different outcome.
Yeah.
So I think that's I think that was big. Plus, with Alden, I feel like the two of you.
So he was what, 4?
Around that age, he was like 3. Around that age, the two of you you guys were buddies. And I feel like some of those early times where you've said intentional no's to other things and given him more attention, I feel like the two of you are like this. Yeah. That could also be because he's a lot like me and you and I get along. So the two of you are like,
Yeah. So another thing I noticed, this is kind of the third thing that I noticed in that season was I felt so much more content with my life, with everything. And again, because like I mentioned before, social media has been a big source of discontent for me.
Yeah.
And, because of God, how he wired me to, I don't know, be an achiever and to chase after things. And, I don't get satisfied super easy. Like even when I do reach a goal, it's like I have a lot more. And I'm working really hard to be content with where I am on the journey at any given point. But I don't ever want to stop. Like I want to keep chasing everything God has for me and for us and SeedTime as a whole. And anyway, but what the downside of that is it's easy to become really discontent. And social media, I think it makes it real, really easy to fan that flame and to fuel that fire in a super negative way. And so anyway, so just stepping away, I just found that all those thoughts that would just regularly come in my head of discontent just weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I feel like I'm just living life without this regular occurrence of feeling like I'm not good enough, I'm not doing good enough, we're not blah, 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 whatever the thing is.
Well, and there's not so much in front of you. Like for me, it's very much how things look. Like when I see these beautiful kitchens, all the time, and people on their beach vacations, and it paints a picture in my mind of the lifestyle that other people are living that I wish I could be living.
Yeah.
When the truth is, there are people wishing that they could be living the lifestyle we're living.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's not that I have anything bad. Like we actually have a pretty great thing going. But because I'm looking at other things, it just makes you...
Yeah, and if you just remove that, it changes it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as removing it, which is... so interesting.
It is interesting.
That it can literally be that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons there. I mean, yeah, and just from a financial standpoint, just not having temptations in front of you, so getting all the magazines, the ad magazines from all the places you shop at, like just not getting them delivered to your house.
Right.
Like can simply reduce what you're spending,
Yeah.
And now the modern version of that really is Instagram.
Totally.
Like for you especially.
Yeah, for me especially.
Pinterest. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing I noticed that was really eye-opening to me was, and this kind of ties into their thing, but just this idea of life passing me by. And so if I step away from for a year, like the whole world's going to move on and I'm going to be stuck in the dark ages. And I don't know, like that was a big fear that I had.
For sure.
And especially with part of our business kind of being tied into social media a little bit. That was really nerve-wracking. But what I found was it was just really surprising because at the end of that year, I remember coming back and feeling like two different things. The first one, that life goes on without us. And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
In a hopefully not too defeatist way, but just an acknowledgement that like we're not as important as, sometimes we may feel.
Right.
And that life just goes on and, and hopefully we make an impact on people's lives while we're here. But at the end of the day, when we die, most people are just going to move on pretty quick. You know what I mean? And I think that's good. If we spend our lives making Jesus famous and trying to help people as much as we can, like it shouldn't be that much about us. And so that's kind of good and healthy in its way. But the other thing I noticed also at the end of that year, so that was kind of one side. The other side was, I don't know. It's like I stepped back and it felt like not much had changed either, which was kind of weird because you'd think over a year, like because a whole lot does change. And so it was like, yes, a lot had changed, but also at the same time, a lot was really similar. And so we look back at right now, 10 years ago to the way the world is now, it feels so different.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, there's also so many things that are really similar. And it was the same way on this, 1 year fast that I did. That was really eye-opening to me because I never would have thought that would feel that way.
Interesting. Yeah. That is bizarre, but it's like, I mean, what really has happened? Like the type of friendships that I look for and long for are the ones that I can not see you for a year or 2 years and we can pick back up where we left off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
those are the quality
Yeah.
relationships to me where it's like no time has passed. And it's not because nothing's changed, but it's just because we can be connected. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? We can still be connected even though we're not in on the daily things that happen. And so, yeah, a lot does change, but especially on social media where I feel like everything is fairly surface level. Not everything. Most things are fairly surface level where it's like, I got a puppy. Do you know what I mean? Where, that's not life-changing. I mean, it's life-changing for the person who got it, but as far as how I relate to them, it doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that makes a lot of sense, even though it is surprising at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about it. Yeah.
So anyway, the challenge for you today is, what's it look like if you do some sort of social media fast? Because I'm curious if you have the same experience that I've had, that you've had, where you just feel a little bit better when you take a break. And if you do this, or if you've done this, I'd love to hear from you. Send us a DM on Instagram. We're at SeedTime. And I'd love to hear what your social media experience has been. Go on social media to DM and send us a message.
Yeah, we're not shutting it down today. So you can message us.
Yeah, we'll be in there to say hi. And if you're enjoying the podcast or any other podcast, go ahead and take a screenshot of the episode you're on, post on stories, tag us. We'd love to hear what you're enjoying, all that stuff.
Yes, and please like it. That's always helpful.
Yeah, do you want to read a review before we wrap up? Let's give someone a gift card and read
a review.
I've been forgetting to do this lately.
That I thought was really exciting. So this was the podcast. It was just a few weeks ago. I don't know how to read the rest of this. Great podcast for financial ...
That's the title.
That's the title. The user is MDLLS 2332. So if you're listening,
if that's you, send us a message. We are going to send you a $25 Amazon gift card as a thank you.
Yeah, but this user says, great podcast. I've read Simple Money Rich Life and loved it. Awesome. Such a great combination of practical financial tips combined with spiritual wisdom. I especially love the focus on giving and having kingdom finance mentality. I'm planning to take the TFF and 10X course down the road. Awesome. In the meantime, I love the weekly podcast as a way to keep my financial priorities in order. Plus, always get a laugh out of something y'all say.
Yep. Doing our best, y'all. Doing our best. But anyway, if you haven't left us a review yet, we'd appreciate it over on iTunes or wherever else you leave reviews.
Yes.
And if you're not subscribed over on Facebook or
YouTube?
Facebook, you can like us. YouTube, you can subscribe. Whatever. All the stuff. You guys know
what to do.
But thanks for coming to hang out. I see Lady Eileen and Karen and Michael and Chandra. Thank you all for coming to hang out with us live and leaving some comments. Good to see you. And we will see you all next week, 1 p.m. Central Time on YouTube. See ya.
See ya.